is Rebecca Pearl, and I work for AARP Elderwatch. I am the Financial Literacy Program Specialist, so I do all of the work regarding educating older adults on financial security as a means to prevent fraud. And today we're going to be talking about finances after the loss of a loved one. And of course, this isn't a super uplifting topic, but it is a very important topic to discuss. Many people will actually get into the statistics of it, but many people do not have these plans in place or are not sure what to do. And so it is of vital importance to talk about these things, although it might be not the most uplifting. So again, thank you for joining me. Just a few things about the great work we do here at AARP Elderwatch. We are a 19-year partnership with the Colorado Attorney General's Office going on 20 years. We're very excited about that in January 2022. We do education and outreach across Colorado on frauds, scams, and financial literacy. We have a volunteer staffed victim support helpline for fraud prevention. So if you have questions or concerns about frauds or scams, or think you might be a victim of a fraud or scam, or have a question about the legitimacy of something, you can give us a call, 800-222-4444, option number 2. You can get in touch with us and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. And we also offer peer-to-peer financial counseling. So if you do experience, unfortunately, the loss of a loved one and do need assistance getting your finances in order, that is something we can assist with. Give us a call again, 800-222-4444, option number 2. Just a little bit about the content today and Zoom things. This is not legal advice. This information is for education only. So please consult an attorney before making any final decisions. Do not make any decisions based off of this information. Please mute your phone line until the end, type questions in the chat, and I'll answer them throughout. And then if you want to watch this presentation again or share it with your friends, your family, feel free. It is at YouTube on AARP Colorado's page. So, a few things that happen when we experience a loss. There's potential for moving or downsizing, right? Finding a new home that's maybe smaller, more manageable, or moving into a retirement community. There can be a change in income levels. A 2-income household may now be a 1-income household. There's changes in expenses. Expenses might decrease, but they might also fluctuate with changes in moving, and there's more people around. A lot of times this can mean extra support, but it also can mean people that have bad intentions are trying to exploit the vulnerabilities that come with losing someone. So we will get into the fraud prevention aspect of this as well today. We are going to talk about wills first off. A little over 30% of people have wills, but honestly, everyone should have one despite your income level. I'm sure no matter what, you have at least one asset. And if you do have an asset and you want that asset not to go to the state of Colorado, at least in Colorado, that's how this works. It is imperative to make a will. If you don't create a will, your property actually goes to your closest relatives. If you don't have any closest relatives, and it goes down a little long list, it ends up going to the state. So if you don't have, relatives, but you do have family or friends that you want to leave things to, you absolutely can. Wills protect your spouse, your children, and your assets legally, and they give direction also as to how you want property, assets, children, and your funeral handled after you pass. So all this information can be included in a will. You can leave property to people or organizations. If you would like to make a donation to an organization, you can do that in your will. It can be either property or it can be, assets of investments or actual cash. You name a personal guardian for both minor children and property, and that guardian uh, in the case of your passing, make sure to take care of those minor children and the property until those children turn 18. A personal representative is appointed also to carry out your wishes. A lot of times this is the executor of the will. So you really want to think very carefully about who you trust as the person that's going to carry out your wishes exactly how you want them. And it might be a close friend, it might be a sibling, it might be a spouse. Just think very carefully about who you want in that position and maybe discuss it with them before you appoint them in that role to make sure they're the best fit. As I mentioned before, if you don't create a will, your property will automatically go to your closest relatives, working down this really long list in the state of Colorado. And if none of your relatives, you don't have relatives on that list, it ends up going to the state. There's a few different ways to make a will. I do recommend talking to an attorney, just no matter what process you use, just to make sure everything is in order, especially if you have multiple assets. So if you have a house, multiple investments, other things you're leaving for folks, you're gonna want to really talk to an attorney before finalizing that will. But there's free templates online that exist to create wills. They're take like 20 minutes, very easy to use and user friendly. There are will websites as well. So there's templates that exist as like Word documents you can download and fill out. Then there's websites that take 20 minutes. You click your choices, it fills it all in for you. There's will template books. You can buy them at Office Max, Office Depot, Staples, and they have basically the language of the will already written out in this book form, and you get the proper witnesses to sign it, and you fill it in the way you want to, and you're done. You need in Colorado either two witnesses or a notary to make your will a legally binding document. So either two people or, go to a bank, find a notary, maybe a friend that's a notary public, they also can make that a legally binding document. So we are going to talk a little bit about the various powers of attorney that exist. The first one we're going to discuss is the durable financial power of attorney. And this is the person that you appoint to manage your financial affairs if you become incapacitated and are no longer to do so. So this would include paying bills, managing money, dealing with creditors and real estate, and any other finances. One thing I like to mention when talking about durable financial power of attorney, even if you don't have this person appointed, one thing you might want to do is make sure a loved one is on your bank account as an authorized user in case of an emergency. In case anything happens to you and you become incapacitated or no longer able to pay your bills, that is going to be something that will help the person is appointed or just, your loved one in managing your finances. The other thing about durable financial power of attorney, a lot of banks have their own separate financial power of attorneys that you have to fill out. So talk to your bank about what that process looks like and make sure to get those forms in order as well. Financial powers of attorney can also be appointed in special cases temporarily. So this happens, let's say I'm living in Florida, but I have real estate in Colorado that I need to sell. I appoint my sister as financial power of attorney, so she's able to sell the real estate on my behalf. And then the POA gets revoked at the end of that because it's temporary. A POA must be witnessed or notarized. So again, either two witnesses or one notary can do that. Durable medical power of attorney allows a person you appoint to make medical decisions if you are no longer able to speak for yourself. So this is different than advance directive. This is the person that if something, God forbid, happens to you where you are no longer able to sustain yourself on uh, live without machines, they would be the person that would, choose whether or not to, quote, pull the plug, unquote. This is only health related decisions under this under this power of attorney. It's only health decisions, and it's only if you're, completely incapacitated and can't make decisions for yourself, right? Can't speak for yourself. This is written according to exactly what your wishes are. So this is something that, takes a lot of time and consideration and filling out and deciding what you want to at the end and what you want your medical care to look like when maybe you can't speak for yourself. This includes care management, deciding medical treatment, hiring personal care assistants, and making decisions on overall medical treatments. And it's outlined separately from a financial power of attorney, so it's a completely different process. But it's not like each hospital has their own medical power of attorney that you fill out. For this, it just needs to be written down. It does not need to be witnessed or notarized, but it's always, good to have at least one or the other to just improve the legitimacy of the documents. Advanced directives are also known as living wills, and they are used when you are no longer able to communicate decisions for yourself. So this is stating wishes for your end of life medical care, what you would want or not want to be used to be kept alive. So this is the, if my heart stops, I stop breathing, I do not want to be resuscitated. If I'm no longer to feed myself, I don't want feeding tubes, or I do. And then it also outlines preferences for pain management and organ donation. This does need 2 witnesses to be legally binding. So again, making sure that someone's witnessing that to ensure its legitimacy. And sorry, just real quick. So in Colorado, these forms exist online, at least for advanced directives. They're very easy to access. You can just Google Colorado Advanced Directives and the form will come up. You're able to fill it out yourself. You can have an attorney look over it. Really, you just need witnesses or a notary. But it is an important thing to have in place, because we really never know what could happen. Okay. So in case of an emergency, you want to have important emergency information in a safe place where a trusted person can access it, and hopefully access it in a timely manner. And this includes login information for email, bank accounts, and financial accounts. You're going to want all of that, because if you are incapacitated and can't handle emails, bank accounts, or financial accounts, there may be big things that you miss. You're also going to want to include your health history, so whoever's taking care of you knows exactly what's going on or what's potentially going on, what your current medications are. That's going to ensure that your care is, absolutely accurate. Also, a birth certificate, your marriage certificate, or divorce certificate, you're going to want to have those included as well. Insurance information, include health insurance, auto insurance, all of the insurances you need. Have them just stored away, and make copies of all these things, right? It doesn't have to be the originals in this emergency file, but just have a copy or 2 of, birth certificate, marriage certificate, divorce certificate, insurance information, stuff like that. And if you have adult children, think about sharing this information with them. If they're your primary caretaker, they just, help out with your care, or you anticipate them helping out with your care, share this information with them. It's important for them to also be kept in the loop as to how you are, maintaining your lifestyle. So if in case of an emergency, someone else can step in and take over if necessary. So after losing a loved one, there are quite a few steps to go through, and I'm going to outline all of them, just because sometimes things can be missed. Some people may already know all of this, other folks may not. Again, feel free to pop questions into the chat. And this does exist as a checklist. So if you want this as a checklist in a Word document, feel free to reach out to me. Happy to get that to you. So you're going to want to contact the Social Security Administration if the funeral home hasn't yet, to inform them of the loss of your loved one. But you can also ask the funeral home for multiple copies of the death certificate. And so sometimes people ask how many copies of the death certificate you should get. And this really varies. I've seen everywhere between 2 and 12. I think starting with 4 or 5 probably is okay, but it depends. If you need to send out multiple notices of, official notices that the person is deceased, there's multiple creditors, there's, multiple accounts they need to be taken off of, you might need more. Contact the post office so their mail can get forwarded. And then also be sure to notify the loved one's employer if they're employed. I think we'll get to this a little in a few slides, but there are a few things to ask the employer if they can assist with funeral expenses or scholarship of some sort, or if there's outstanding money, sick day payout, vacation day payout that needs to be collected by you. Locate the will executor. This is going to be the person who manages the estate that we talked about earlier, but also be sure to locate that will. Hopefully it's in a safe place where you're aware where it is, easy to access. Be sure to contact all 3 credit bureaus to request the credit report be flagged as deceased, do not issue credit. And this is a huge, huge way to stop, to prevent scams from happening with folks that have passed away and using their identities. This is also hugely important with the scam prevention aspect of this, is writing a letter to Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. And all of this information does and need to be included. Make sure to send it via certified mail so you know when it gets there, when someone receives it. You want to include the name of the deceased, their address, their social security number, their birth date and death date, copy of that death certificate, your name, contact information, and your relationship to the deceased. You're also going to want to request that credit report as well to make sure that nothing has been opened in their name and there's nothing to clear up in terms of errors on that report. You're also going to want to contact the credit unions and banks where accounts are opened in the loved one's names so that the account information can either be changed over to your name or closed completely. You want to talk to your life insurance provider in order to begin receiving payments and to evaluate what life or disability coverage may be needed going forward for yourself. Contact creditors to have your loved one's name removed from any joint accounts that you may have with them, and be sure to close accounts with just their name on them. And be sure to also shred or cut up those credit cards. Inform creditors also how you'll take care of any outstanding debt if you are now in a precarious financial situation because of the loss. Be sure to explain that to the creditor and ask them if there's a payment plan that they're willing to set up or another type of plan for you to pay off those debts.
Everyone with access to all of the employees' federal taxes just for a given year should be able to tie the amount of federal income tax, Social Security, Medicare, W-3, which reflects the activity for all employees for the whole year. Let's take a closer look at wages paid to just-in-time employer. 19. Owner, Timothy. Annual wage, federal.
You also want to be sure to update the names on any core titles with the DMV. update the deed on your house by filling out the required forms. Those will be submitted to the county clerk's office, and then cancel any memberships your loved one may have had, including clubs, gyms, and professional organizations. I really quickly want to highlight the Social Security death benefit. This is something sometimes people do not know. If the loved one has received their monthly Social Security benefit and they have passed away, it must be sent back. So that sum must be sent back, otherwise you will face some sort of fine. But there is a one-time survivor's benefit after the loss, so you are going to want to report that death to Social Security Administration so they can pay that benefit out. The benefit is $255. It's distributed to a spouse living together or separate and receiving benefits on the deceased's record. So you have to be either, if you're living separated, you have to be listed as receiving benefits from the deceased. Cases of divorce are a bit different, excuse me. The death benefit will be the same if the marriage lasts 10 years or more, even if there's a remarriage. So that's also very good to know. Widows or widowers can receive monthly benefits by taking the full survivor's benefits or reduced benefits at age 60, and then switching to their benefit at age 72. Really quickly, before we get into fraud and scam prevention, budgeting is going to be really important. And I know everyone hates the big bad B word, but income and expenses may have changed. And so keeping track of this is going to be absolutely vital. Identify all of the income that's coming in and all of the expenses, and include that debt in there. Keep track of that debt. Subtract the income from the expenses to see what's left over for savings. And be sure to start small in savings and also in debt repayment. If you are going to be paying back debts, try that snowball method where you start with the lowest amount of debt first, tackle that lowest amount of debt, and work your way up and up and up until all of a sudden your debt is gone. Lots of options exist for budgeting, both online and on paper. There's various apps. There's Mint. There is maybe something even in your banking app where you can budget. There's Nerd Wallet, and then there's a variety of different websites. You Need a Budget is one of them that people really like. People also use Excel. I simply use an Excel spreadsheet, and it just has income, expenses, and calculates, based on the income and expenses for the month, how much is going to go into savings and how much has to go towards debt. The last method is called the envelope method. People a lot of times use this as well for budgeting. You withdraw as much cash as you need for the week, and then literally put the cash into envelopes labeled with various categories that showcase expenses. Debt is a target for scams because we rarely deal with it. There's usually lots of money involved. Vulnerable family members, this is a really vulnerable time. There's many life changes, lots of things are happening, right? And that happens to everyone, unfortunately. Identity theft is a huge issue amongst the deceased. There's over 2 million cases of ID theft per year involving the deceased. And so scammers obtain information via obituaries, death certificates, online. And it's easy because a deceased person obviously can't check their credit and they are not able to report fraud. So that makes it so the scam can, go on for quite some time. Financial institutions are not immediately made aware of a deceased member also. So that is also an issue. If it's 5 days before the financial institution finds out that someone's passed away, and in that time 10 charges have been made, there's going to be some issues there, right? So to prevent scams happening through identity theft, be sure to shorten the obituary. Don't include the birth date, don't include the mother's maiden name, don't include any personal information. Be sure to protect the death certificate. Don't lose it, keep it in a safe place. Notify your Social Security and the DMV as soon as you can. Again, we talked about notifying the credit bureaus and placing the deceased alert, but be sure also to check back a month later. Notify all the financial institutions and be sure to share information with family and friends wisely. If you wouldn't want it shared about yourself, don't share it about someone who might not be able to respond. So debt collection scams are also huge after the loss of a loved one because scammers do their homework and figure out that you might be the person responsible for the outstanding bills. Never make a payment or give personal information over the phone. That is going to be the most effective way to prevent any fraud victimization. Be sure to ask for the name of the person that's calling, their ID number, and their company name, and get legal advice before paying any major debt because you might not be responsible for it. You do not want to pay a debt that you are not responsible for. Obituary related scams are also very common after a loss of a loved one. Criminals, including the scammers, are reading. They do keep up with the headlines and they do keep up with what's in the newspapers. So understand the dangers truly of listing that personal information. Don't put down the address of the deceased or relatives, even though this information is easily searchable. If it's right there, that's going to be much more opportunistic than someone, Googling the address to find out where your loved one may live. Have a friend or neighbor stay at or pay extra attention to your home or your loved one's home during all parts of the funeral process. And if you have to go out of town at any point, people do target empty homes for not necessarily scams, but robberies. So, just be sure to, again, keep that information close to your chest. General scam awareness, major life events can make people susceptible to be a victim of a scam. Be on alert for the red flags of common scams that might catch you at a bad moment. IRS will never call you. Tech support scams are running rampant right now, and they are coming through text, phone call, and email. So just be really, really alert. Sweepstakes scams, phishing, and online dating might catch you off guard if they're not part of your normal role also. Be sure to protect your personal information and the personal information of the deceased as well. And then I'll leave you with just a few resources. AARP Overwatch, you can give us a call there at 800-222-4444, option number 2. Stop Fraud Colorado has great resources. They're our partner with Elderwatch, stopfraudcolorado.gov. If you check out the Colorado Gerontological Society, they have a lot of information about funeral planning and just family planning in general as we age. And then finally, AARP also has information on funeral planning. Feel free to check that out as well. And then finally, AARP FraudWatch Network alerts can be signed up for by texting 50757 to FWN, and those fraud alerts go out, I think, bi-weekly. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. Well, I again appreciate you all joining me today, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. Oh, sorry, one question. The recording will be on AARP Colorado's YouTube channel, and I am happy to email that to you as well. Of course, it's my absolute pleasure. Have a good day, everyone. Oh, an authorized user. You want to ask the bank to put someone as an authorized user in case of an emergency or in case someone passes away. And that will make it so they have access to your information. Thanks, Ladine. Have a great day.